the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Last night, Donald Trump threw a massive party at his Mar-a-Lago resort to celebrate the first year of his presidency. Tickets were $100,000 a pair. Now, it is a self-evident truth that Donald Trump is a polarizing figure to those who don't like him. They call him a bloviating bully who has a casual relationship to the truth, who has encumbered the United States with a deeply troubling investigation into the Russian meddling into his campaign, a man who has deeply diminished the U.S. standing in the world. However, to Trump supporters, the president is a truth-telling political warrior who has presided over low unemployment rates and record-breaking market levels. He's an economic boom-time president. So who has it right? Well, one of Donald Trump's most vocal critics is David Frum, Atlantic magazine editor, former speechwriter for President George W. Bush, now the author of the best-selling new book, Trumpocracy, The Corruption of the American Republic. And David Frum joins me now. David, good to see you today. What is the main argument of your new book, Trumpocracy?
The main argument is that as spectacular a personality as Donald Trump is, you have to pay attention to the whole system of power. You've seen him maybe at Camp David spouting and fulminating. Pay attention not just to what he says, but to those men and women behind his shoulders nodding as he talks, because they're really the crucial part of the story. They're the people who keep him on that stage.
Okay, so let's look under the hood, because you're right. We pay a lot of attention to the Twitter circus, right? Because the personality issue is huge. What should we be looking at under the hood of this presidency? Well,
a year ago, we talked about Trump's self-enrichment. President Trump is receiving undisclosed amounts of payments, probably in the millions of dollars, maybe more, from business partners in places like the Philippines, Turkey, India, the United Arab Emirates. This has never happened before in the history of the presidency. They're paying him for the use of his name. Maybe it's a flat fee, maybe it's a percentage. Nobody knows. The man in the Philippines who signs President Trump's checks, his partner in the Trump Tower Manila, is the present Filipino ambassador to Washington. None of this is visible. The public has no idea how much the president is receiving. And all of those people, of course, are subject to pressure from their own government. Meanwhile, the Mueller investigation continues to dig ever deeper into the sinister connections between Trump and Russia.
Okay, now a lot of people listening saying, oh, David Frum's a critic, he always sees it this way. The whole fundamental idea of the American experiment is a system of checks and balances. Your book is called The Corruption of the American Republic. Where are the checks and balances? Are those working right now?
The most important check on the presidency is Congress, and Congress is enabling. Trump has struck a bargain with the Republicans in Congress. I'll sign the bills you want and that Trump doesn't really care about, if in turn you protect me as I enrich myself and get into legal trouble.
Okay, again, Trump supporters, we had Conrad Black on this program last week. Low unemployment. The markets are doing great. Our allies are starting to put more into things like NATO. He's started to get North Korea is now going to march with South Korea. This, you don't like him, you think he's crass. Guess what? It works. What do you say to that?
It doesn't work. Yes, it is certainly true the economy is expanding. I predicted that a year ago in the first paragraph of the first article I wrote about Donald Trump, that if you run big deficits, have loose monetary policy, and tighten immigration, yeah, you'll tighten labor markets and things will be prosperous. 2017 has been a prosperous year. But the allies, those relationships are collapsing. What is happening in Korea right now is that South Korea and North Korea are talking to each other because Donald Trump has managed to make South Korea more frightened of the United States than it is of China. That he has attacked the U.S.-South Korea Free Trade Agreement at the same time as he's talked about starting a war against North Korea in order for which the casualties will be paid by the South Koreans. There's no relationship with Germany, America's most important ally in Europe. There's not even an ambassador to either Germany or the EU. Trump is hyperactive as a president for everything he shouldn't do. But for the things that need to be done, especially maintaining the foreign relations of the United States, nothing's happening. Look at the relationship with Canada. How can you mess up the relationship with Canada? And yet the Trump people, are constantly threatening to cancel NAFTA and never really offering any way forward, embittering America's easiest foreign relationship.
Well, let's talk about that, because obviously we're about to enter into a very critical phase of the NAFTA talks. What does it tell us? Here we are a year into the presidency. Is he committed to things like globalized trade, free trade? Is he an isolationist? The signals are so mixed. A year in, how do you evaluate that?
Well, you can't. Donald Trump doesn't have political ideas in the usual sense. I mean, he's an isolationist who fired 60 cruise missiles into Syria. He is a trade protectionist who doesn't even bother to study what the trade balances are between countries. He doesn't think in those terms. What Donald Trump, the important thing to understand about him is he's unable to have any relationship with anything like a peer. He's only able to, he can be a suck-up when he needs to be. He can be a bully when he can. But he can never have an equal relationship. And he's bringing this attitude toward the foreign policy of the United States. He wants to domineer and dominate and tell people what to do. But because he doesn't bring enough to the party, what he finds is that he breaks up all of these relationships.
Some people don't think Donald Trump finishes out his term. Some people think he wins a second term. There's obviously a massive rift inside the conservative movement, the Republican movement in the United States. Does he finish his term?
Barring a health event, I assume he finishes his first term. Unfortunately, the rift inside the Republican world is closing. The worse Donald Trump acts, the closer Republicans gather around him because they need to protect him. You know, National Review, the signature magazine of the conservative world, during the primaries it ran a cover saying "Never Trump." It's marking the one-year anniversary by running a glowing cover story of Donald Trump, suitable spanking material for Stormy Daniels, and she'll love it. He'll love it if she uses it.
Just so people know, Stormy Daniels, former porn star who allegedly had an affair that Trump denies it with Donald Trump. They had sex, and apparently she spanked him with Forbes magazine with him on the cover. I'm just saying that's the allegation, right? That's how we talk about this president.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, before I let you go, on a serious note, you call it Trumpocracy. What's the most dangerous thing? Like if you were looking out on the horizon, what's the biggest warning light you have for people watching?
It continues to be the self-enrichment of the president, because in order to protect his self-enrichment, he has to turn off one by one the ethical standards of the U.S. government. He has to politicize the Department of Justice. He's got huge legal exposure, but he's got the power to turn off law enforcement in order to protect himself and his family.
David Frum, always good to have you on the program, sir. Thanks so much.
Thank you.